I think collectors are always looking for the most definitive version of every character. Everything that they have, they want it to be the best of the best. And with Fanstoys, you usually find they usually make some of the best characters. Today I want to talk about all the upcoming releases and are they necessary? Will they truly be definitive? Are they too redundant? We're going to get into talking about all this coming up. Before we get into all of this, I want to tell you that my thought was that the Fanstoys jabber was completely unnecessary. I was perfectly happy that I thought it was great, it looked good enough, I was happy with it. If I never got Fanstoys, I would have still been happy. But once I got the Fanstoys and started messing with it, then I realized that I did like it better. So coming with this mentality, I'm going to look at this whole list and think about jabber. It won me over. And I'm curious what you guys think. So please put in the comments down below if they didn't make one of these characters, if they took the slot out, what character would you like to see? So the first one I want to talk about is Fanstoys Sheridan and their take on Warpath. Now, this is where we start getting into a couple of situations. Now, first off, I don't have mine yet, so it's still a future decision for me. Like, do I really like it better? Just by looks, I like the looks of it better, and that probably will win it for me. But a lot of people are still in the situation they don't quite have it yet. They've ordered it, it's just in the mail, checks in the mail, the Warpath's in the mail. But I think it looks good, and I think it is actually necessary. And here's why. Because the only other options we have are Final Victory and Bad Cube. Now, I'm going to compare it to all these when I get mine and I do a review. And an in-hand comparison is a lot easier than pictorial comparison because I have handled them all and I can tell more about it and explain more. But I do think this looks better. Now, I would have been happy with Final Victory in my collection for a long time. The only problem is Final Victory would not have been definitive, and I really felt that Bad Cube was a bit too bulky for my liking for the character. But in the end, I just really don't care about the character that much, personally. But I think Fanstoys looks great, so we need it. Next up, we have Fanstoys BRAN. Well, their hunk is their BRAN. And I got mixed feelings about this because the character itself, again, I'm not too concerned about it. I don't care about him that much. And I think that the Final Victory looks good. I'm prepared to keep my Final Victory as my BRAN for a long time, but I do think Fanstoys looks better. Here's the problem, though. I don't think Fanstoys looks twice as good. I think it only looks like 5 or 6% better. Yes, I might have to customize it and paint the head and the forearms and stuff on the Final Victory version. But here's the downside of Final Victory. It's not definitive. Therefore, I struggle with this one, but I still would have been happy with Final Victory forever. What do you guys think? Now, their HUFFER. Now, sticking with these mini-bots here, just let's bang them out real quick. Their HUFFER, I think it is needed only because Bad Cube's not reissuing theirs. Now, it's going to be a really tough battle between Fanstoys and Bad Cube. Now, what's ultimately going to happen, Fanstoys will come out, probably have better paint, better hardware. It will feel like a much better figure in your hand than Bad Cube, but Bad Cube looks good. And I think Bad Cube did a good job with it. So, it's one of those things that, is Bad Cube the definitive one already? Is it already definitive? Or will Fanstoys come out and be definitive? And people are already picking this picture apart, and it's like a shadow picture in the background picture, but they're picking it apart with the shoulders too low and a few other things and a few other issues. So this is going to be a tough one. Bad Cube might still win. But Fanstoys might actually be needed because Bad Cube's not reissuing this thing. The last mini-bot I'm really going to talk about real quick is Fanstoys Dune Rider, and this is their Beachcomber, and he does look good. I think he looks great. There was a time where I would have thought this would have been amazing that they're putting it out. And I've got a pre-order, by the way. I am going to get them, but the X-Transbots version is that good. I think he looks great. And it's going to be a tough battle there, too. Now, one thing that looks like Fanstoys is cleaner. And that's something a lot of people really like. A lot of people like how clean that Fanstoys one is. So is it necessary? I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. But then again, is X-Transbots definitive? Okay, yeah, I know. I was done talking about mini-bots. But the Spindrift 2.0, I guess this is just the fact that Fanstoys felt like they missed the mark on their 1.0. But here's the thing. I like X-Transbots version. I think 2.0 is unnecessary. I think in this case, you already did a 1.0. It's not a bad figure. Fanstoys Spindrift was not a bad figure. It just didn't match the character very well. And I think Fanstoys is like, well, it's one of our failures, so let's do better. Are they going to go back and do a Rouge 2.0? Because a lot of people have problems with that figure and don't like that figure. I don't think they're going to. I think it's a waste of a slot. They've already done a Spindrift. You can get one for 55 bucks everywhere. It's really easy to get your hands on. Not that hard to get your hands on. And the X-Transbots one is an excellent value. Looks good. I love it. Just move on, Fanstoys, and fill that slot with something better. So next I want to talk a little bit more about Jazz. They are making a Jazz. And looking at this, would their Jazz be a definitive Jazz? Well, I have to say that I'm highly intrigued with how they go about making the lower feet, the ankles area, look more tune accurate. I'm curious how many steps it's going to take to get there, but it's a very interesting design, and it intrigues me a lot how they're going to achieve that. Now, this is a tough one. Is it necessary? Because Make Toys looks so good. So many people feel like Make Toys was already a definitive version of this character. And I have to admit, I have it, and I don't see many places it can be improved other than the lower ankle area, which Fanstoys does improve on. Fanstoys does look slightly better because of that. And also, if you look at the Toy World or Zeta version on the right, I think it still looks good. It's a bit stylized, but in hand, it looks great on a shelf. You know it's Jazz. I mean, there's so many options. Should they be working on a different character? I'm going to call this one necessary because of the fact that he's such a popular character and so many people out there are clamoring for one. This is going to be exciting when it comes out, even though Make Toys is great. I'm curious about the comment section. How many people are going to say, I have Make Toys and I don't want the Fanstoys because Make Toys is good? Or I don't have Make Toys or the other one and I've been waiting on Fanstoys. I'm curious how many people say that. Next, we're going to get into Mirage. And this was a lot easier. This one is a pretty clear cut. It looks great. It looks good. It looks pretty tuned. I think Fanstoys will do an excellent job with it. So with this version here, Sphinx, I never felt looked good. The one in the middle is Sphinx. I felt like he looked good, but wasn't definitive. I was like, yeah, there's going to be a better one coming out. It just can't be the best that's made for this character. Now we're going to have a battle between the outside two, Transform Element and Fanstoys. And there's one thing about the Transform Element that kind of bothers me, and it's the wheel. You don't see it in this picture, but the wheel stays a big wheel. I don't know what Fanstoys does, but I've seen a picture of an angle that it looks like they get rid of the wheel. I don't know yet. But if they're able to do that and pull that off and win, maybe it is necessary. Maybe that's a necessary release. But I really was kind of giving it to the old Transform Element because so many people like Transform Element Prime over MP44 for reasons. I'm going to call this necessary. Before anybody gets too upset, I want to share, of course, this is all my opinion. This is not factual. The only factual is what's been released and what's coming. So before anyone gets too upset, yes, it's my opinion, and just my opinion. So share your opinion down below. But looking at this one here, this Outrider, their version of Trailbreaker, and I think he looks good. He looks alright. I'm going to call it unnecessary. I think X-Transbots did a great job with the one that's out. I don't really see how Fanstoys would beat that, up it, one-up it, level up it. I don't know. And here's the thing. From what I understand, the Hoist is even better than the Trailbreaker from X-Transbots. And they made some revisions to this figure in the second reissue. So with all of that, I think X-Transbots got a great one on the market. I don't see how Fanstoys will beat it. But then again, I was wrong on Blur. So there's that. Let's change the conversation up a little bit. No, let's triple change the conversation up a little bit. And let's talk about Thomas and their take on Astro Train. I have to be 100% honest with you. There is no arguing this point. This is absolutely necessary. In fact, of the ones that they've got coming out, the most necessary, the most needed in the community. I don't understand why it's not on the schedule next. Maybe it's not on the schedule as the very, very next release because they want to get it right. Guess what? I'm okay with that. Now, I had the DX9 option, and it's not a bad figure. The problem is it's not definitive. This is not the definitive version. I knew there would be a better one coming. I got it. I looked it over, flipped it around, put it on a shelf, and I said there'll be a better one coming, and I better sell it before Thomas is announced. But funny thing is, this thing is getting a reissue too, I believe. So that's interesting. And you can't talk triple changes without talking about Blitzkrieg. Is that what they call it? Blitzkrieg? For their Blitzwing. Now, here's the problem with the Blitzwing. They've already redesigned it. And if it comes out and has the same issues as KFC, then it will have been a waste of time, in my opinion. So I have the DX9. I used to have the DX9. I have the KFC now. The KFC, which is pictured here, looks great. And arguing back and forth, which one looks better, this one or Fanstoys, it's so close that it's just really hard to say, well, Fanstoys looks 12% better, worth dropping another like 150, 130, wherever you buy it. Show Z, it's going to be like 130. So 130 bucks on this guy. If it has the problems with the stability that KFC does, or did, I mean, you got the new joint upgrade you can put in it. If it has that problem, then it'd have been a waste. It doesn't look that much better to still deal with the same problem. Now, they've redesigned it. This character tends to be top heavy simply because so much is packed in the top. It's just holding all that up on those little legs. But I do see when they redesigned it and put some treads in the lower legs and all that stuff, it was like a massive redesign to redistribute this weight. Hopefully it worked, and if it did work, and it is more stable, and it does work a whole lot better, and still looks as good, if not a little better, than KFC, then it was definitely necessary. But if it comes out and it's not any better, then it was a waste of time. Next up, is Acoustic Wave actually necessary? This is a really hard one because I really want this figure. So many people are happy with what Takara did. I think that this is the evolutionary step going in the newer direction that Takara is going, leaving the old one in the past. Therefore, yes, it's necessary. We need Acoustic Wave, and we need the updated Acoustic, not the 2012 version, the 2019 version. Also, a lot of people feel like there were issues with the tapes. The tapes were not that great. I was kind of hit and miss on the tapes myself. I want to see how Fanstoys does them. Yes, necessary. Next, getting into this chump. Is this character necessary? Yes, definitely. Here's the thing. If they would have stopped at Lupus and never made another Headmaster, Lupus would have been odd figure out. That would have been a strange looking shelf. Where's all his friends and his buddies? I think this is going to dial out that shelf. And I think as they continue with this, there might even be a possibility of a Lupus 2.0 in the future. My understanding is there'll never be a Lupus reissue. Now, I read an email somewhere to that. Maybe I misinterpreted it, but that was something that I heard. Well, saw. But going Headmaster to Headmaster, do we even need a Cerebros? It's a definite yes. There is no other Cerebros. And then there's the Titan Returns one. Do we need a Cerebros? Masterpiece scale Cerebros that looks G1? We need that big time. So do we need the full FT40? You know, talking about this thing, a lot of people are saying that this thing is a proof of concept. It will never get it. It's never going to come out. And that might be true, but I've been living with a full-size picture of it in my display room, and I just can't wait to have one. It would just be amazing. I mean, even if we don't get the rest of the city bots, just to have one giant-size bot like this would be amazing. So yes, definitely needed. And getting into Tesla 2.0, I have to admit that there really is no other option on the market other than buying their Tesla 1.0 and upgrading it to make it to the modern aesthetic. Same thing with Soundwave. Like, it's a modern aesthetic, and they're upgrading their older aesthetic. Not the same thing as Spindrift, by the way. But I'm going to rate it as necessary. Because, not because of my collection. I'm perfectly fine with the first version. Just because they don't have the ability to make the first one, and if they're going to reissue, they might as well just put out one in the modern aesthetic. And then, of course, all of us with the 1.0 will probably want to check it out and see if it's worth upgrading to, and all of that good stuff. But definitely, it's a definite hole in all collectors. And thinking past myself, definitely worth releasing. It's necessary. So I made my list. I checked it twice. What do you guys think about all this? Do you agree with some of my calls? Do you disagree with some of my calls? Some of them are so hard I don't feel definitive about my own call, but let me know what you think in the comments below. And of course, remember, let me know what you think they should make. What figure would you like them to make that they haven't yet? Like, subscribe to Darren Hanger out.